is a cloudy night, but right now it is a dry night, thankfully, at Great American Ballpark. Crowd rolling in as the Reds kick off a week-long homestand. And it begins with a first of 4 against a team that eliminated them from the postseason a year ago, the defending world champion San Francisco Giants. Hi again, everybody, alongside the Cowboy, Jeff Brantley. I'm Tom Brenneman. Welcome, as always, to Cincinnati Reds baseball. Well, the Reds losing the final game, the rubber game of that series against the Rangers, but now back on the home front. The Reds, along with the Giants, Cowboy, both come in limping to this series.
Yes, they do, Tom. The biggest issue, 10 wins for the Giants, only 12 for the Reds. Not quite the month of June, I think, that either ball club would have wanted. Both struggling offensively, neither getting the starting pitching in the month of June that they would have liked. And both of these clubs, let's face it, they make their money in starting pitching.
Meanwhile, for the Reds, the good news is they're back at home, where we know over the last number of years, and especially so again this year, they have been very good at Great American Ballpark.
Well, that's one thing that the Reds can take solace in right now. They come back home, a very difficult road trip. But I think the biggest issue right now is being comfortable. You're back with your family. You're in a ballpark, your own locker room. The Reds hit well here. They pitch well here. And Bronson Arroyo, he has been awesome in this park this year.
We'll talk more about that here in a moment. But one guy that you certainly have to always pay attention to, batting third in that Giant lineup, Buster Posey, the reigning National League's most valuable player, and he was just named National League Player of the Week today.
Well, we remember what Buster Posey did last year in the playoffs, the big grand slam, and this guy is hitting the ball as good right now as he has been all year long. 4 home runs in his last 5 ball games, hitting the ball well over 300. He is a guy that every Reds pitcher, starter, bullpen, middle, you name it, they're going to have to be awfully careful with this guy.
So something's got to give here tonight. The Giants are struggling, the Reds are struggling, and they're meeting in the first of 4. Cowboy alluded to the fact that Bronson Arroyo has been so good at home. We'll tell you how good he's been at home and how good he's been against these Giants. That's coming up next on Fox Sports Ohio.
It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
Had a lot of rain early today in Cincinnati. What about the rest of the night? Our weather is brought to you by Tri-State Orthopedics. And here's our buddy Tim Hedrick from the WKRC Weather Department.
We need a sweep. We need to win all of them before the break. And you only do that by getting them on, getting them over, and getting them in. Chance of a thunderstorm during the game, 73 down to 69. Enjoy the game on Fox Sports Ohio.
Well, we're hoping to be enjoying another good start here on the home front for that man right there, Bronson Arroyo.
It'll all be about off-speed stuff in the strike zone, Tom. The last time out for Bronson, it wasn't just that he was facing left-handed batters, but he was having difficulty getting the breaking ball where he wanted it. And tonight for Bronson, especially being back home in his own ballpark, his own mound, if you will, these are the kind of numbers that you'll hope for Arroyo here tonight. The Giants are struggling.
See a 3-1 record against this Giant team. The Reds have played very well against this Giant team the last 2 years here at Great American Ballpark, with a caveat being the 3 games in the division series last year. Meanwhile, they're getting a look, the Reds are, for the first time, at young left-hander Mike Kickham.
Young pitcher, still trying to figure himself out. He does have a fastball, 92 to 93. The rest of his pitches, well, that could be a toss-up.
Well, they're glad to be home, the Reds are. A long road trip. Not a very good one, but it's time to try and right the ship here in front of the hometown fans. First pitch coming up next. The Ford F-Series trucks, the best-selling truck in America, 36 straight years, by Cincinnati USA Regional Tourism Network. Book your stay at CincinnatiUSA.com. And by Skyline Chili, feeling good. It's Skyline time. Bruce Bochy, all those years in San Diego, finally made the trip north to San Francisco, where 2 of the last 3 years he has led the Giants to World Series championships. See his numbers, and now his 7th year. Hard to believe he's been in San Francisco that long. And his starting lineup tonight reads as follows: Gregor Blanco in center, Marco Scutaro at second, Buster Posey in a 3-hole, Pablo Sandoval, Hunter Pence, Brandon Belt in the middle. Andres Torres, Brandon Crawford, the shortstop, might kick him on the mound. 6-6 right-hander Bronson Arroyo, an ERA fractionally more than 3.5.
You look at that lineup, Tom. There are 6 batters that will face Arroyo from the left side. Even though Sandoval is the big hitter in this lineup from the left side, Brandon Belt, I believe, will be the big key tonight for Arroyo.
Well, we are set to go. Gregor Blanco getting the nod in center field, having a nice year for the Giants. 284 batter, a home run, 26 knocked in, 11 doubles, 4 triples, and knocking on the door of 10 stolen bases. Arroyo throws the left leg in the air, flips a breaking ball in there. Strike one, says Bill Welke, and we are underway. Adrian Johnson, the umpire, at first. Brian O'Nora at second. And the crew chief is fielding Culbreth down at third. 0-1 to the left-handed batting Gregor Blanco. It's up and away, a ball and a strike.
Filling in quite admirably for Angel Pagan, I might add.
Blanco originally came up in the Atlanta Braves organization. Breaking ball, a strike 2. Went to the Royals in a trade during the 2010 year. Did not play in the big leagues at all in 2011. Giants gave him a flyer last year and played very well for them in their World Championship season. In fact, Blanco is only a career .253 batter and hitting better than 30 points above that so far this season.
Well, when you have a team that has let you go, you want to prove something that's different about yourself. You can do it when you have an opportunity, and that opportunity is now with Pagan out of the lineup.
We got shoot up on that pitch in and pops it up weakly to Zach Cozart. And 1 out. We take a look at the Reds on defense. Presented by your Ford dealers. Derek Robinson once more out in left field. Chu in center, Jay Bruce in right, the regular crew along the infield. And look who's back in the lineup for the first time since last weekend when he injured his ankle in Arizona. It's Ryan Hanigan.
Gotta have him behind the plate at least a couple of times, if not 3 times, every 5th, 6th day.
Marco Scutaro came over from Colorado 2 years ago. And what a year he put together last year, and what a postseason he put together. He was overall their best player. Once a calendar turned into October, during the 2012 NLCS, he had 14 hits in that 7-game thrilling series against the St. Louis Cardinals, including a 3-hit game in the clincher, Game 7. And he's gone on 3 pitches for a strikeout for Bronson Arroyo.
Normally, Scutaro not really afraid to hit with 2 strikes, but he's had some back issues, and the breaking ball there appeared to just lock him up a little bit.
So now the #1 pick in 2008 out of Florida State for the Giants, Buster Posey. Got his nickname Buster from his daddy, who was known as Buster back in his youth. Comes from a town, Leesburg, Georgia, of not even 3,000 people in the entire town. 0-2. Of course, Posey was a pitcher / shortstop for the Florida State Seminoles. And many have wondered, Cowboy, would he be best suited with a permanent move over to first base? And he says, I want nothing to do with that move. 1-2.
It's amazing you say that, Tom, because when he was at Florida State, he took the spot behind the dish because there was another player that could only play shortstop.
Gone swinging Posey and gone to the Giants. A solid start for Arroyo. So the Reds are coming up against the youngster Mike Kickham when we return. games over the 500 mark, but they're now a season high 5.5 behind the front running Pirates in the National League Central. Robinson, Chu, and Votto at the top. Phillips in the cleanup spot, followed by Jay Bruce and Todd Frazier. A latter third of Zach Cozart, Ryan Hannigan, Bronson Arroyo. Reds have never seen Mike Kickham making his third major league start.
And we'll see a lot of fastballs, and Kickham will manipulate the fastball. He'll cut it a little bit away from the left-handers, sink it in. The changeup and the curveball, well, they are in process and just starting to develop at the big league level, which is not normally the case. Normally you have those things done before you get to this part of your career.
So here we go in the Reds' first inning. Derek Robinson checking in at .266 with 5 runs batted in. The Reds are 12 games over 500 here at home, and they are hoping to build some momentum leading up to that final trip before the All-Star break on this 7-game homestand. I mean, the Giants are the Giants. They're the defending world champs. It's not always who you play, but when you play them. Of course, they might be saying the same things about the Reds, having won 2 of the last 3 Central Division titles, that they're playing them at a good time. We'll see. It's been a very long road trip for the Giants. It started, and they've continued to go further and further and further away from home. Started in LA, on to Denver, Colorado, and now all the way in Cincinnati. And it appears to be a very tired bunch. 3 cities, 10 games, 11 days, where they have won only 1 game so far. Got swept by the Dodgers. Snapped a season high 6-game losing streak with a win over the Rockies yesterday. But they still lost 8 of 10 and 11 of 15. And Robinson never swung the bat. He's gone on strikes. Take a look at the Giants on defense, presented by your Ford dealers. Torres in left, Blanco in center, Pence out and right. Sandoval and Brandon Belt on the corner, Scudero and Crawford up the middle, Posey to catcher. This team has really not changed much at all from the team that won the World Series last year, outside of the fact that, like the Reds, they have some very important pieces missing on their pitching staff. Ryan Vogelsong with a broken finger after getting hit by a pitch as Chu looks at a ball. And Santiago Casilla had surgery to remove a bone cyst near his knee, and they just sent him out on rehab assignment. And he is a major weapon down in that bullpen. Two and one to Shin-Soo Choo. Well, I don't need to tell any of you, the Reds had a miserable time trying to hit on the road. As a team, they batted .218. But no more glaring number than the numbers with runners in scoring position. 112 at bats, 12 base hits. Three and two on Chu. Mr. Kickham calls Springfield, Missouri his home. Born and raised, grew up in the Show Me State. 3-2 pitch. Lined hard in the left, and they had it played perfectly. That's the second time in 2 days the opposition has played him almost on the line, and he's hit a line drive right at the left fielder.
We're seeing that more and more in today's game, where the videos from around Major League Baseball just show your tendency on a certain pitch, and if you can execute that pitch, you can put your defense in the perfect spot.
0-1 to Joey Votto, batting average at .326, 14 home runs and 38 runs batted in. Votto, one of the few Reds who swung the bat well on that trip. 10 of 29, couple of doubles, couple of home runs. Boy, you can't help but flash back to what happened when you see the Giants just in these road gray uniforms with a black and orange trim, and recall what happened last October. The Reds went out to San Francisco and thoroughly dominated this Giant team. It looked like overmatch from the first pitch, and it was overmatch the first 2 games of the series. The Reds were hitting, they were pitching, they were dominating the Giants. They had not lost 3 in a row at home the entire regular season. But that's precisely what happened once Barry Zito and the Giants came to Cincinnati. 3 in a row.
This game of baseball is just so ridiculous when it comes to that. A change of venue, change of the day's starting pitcher, a little switch in the lineup, something happening in the clubhouse. Anything can change your outlook of the day, and it can change the whole ball game.
Well, Joey appeared to be tardy on a 3-2 fastball at just 91 miles per hour.
This is the feeling out process of this young left-hander Kickham. The best thing he can do is throw strikes early, especially the first time through the lineup.
And there's strike 3 to Votto, and the inning is over. 2 Reds go down looking in a 1-2-3 first inning.
Brought to you by Head and Shoulders, now with a hint of Old Spice. Bronson Arroyo filling up the strike zone. Check out this breaking ball. Caught looking with Scudero. Even better here against the powerful Buster Posey. Swung at the first breaking ball. Well, I'm going to give you another one.
Old Spice, that's the stuff you used to put in your hair when you were a little boy.
Yeah. Now I put it under my arm.
And I'm not making that up. Some of you saying, oh, well, what in the world is he talking about? You were the one that revealed that to us.
I know.
From the very beginning.
I know. I did. My dad used it. I thought, well, he puts it on his face. Just rubbed it all up in my lid.
Now Kung Fu Panda they call him. Pablo Sandoval. The Panda looks like he's been doing a little hibernating.
Yeah, he does.
That weight fluctuates frequently with the big fella. Comes in struggling, only one hit in his last 20 at bats, but tell you what, every time I see this guy, he's hitting it hard somewhere.
Well, he does not get cheated, and he swings awfully hard regardless of which side of the plate he's on. This is the side I think he's the most dangerous. You hang one in the middle of the plate, he's headed towards the ribeye.
And that's a word that was used to describe Pablo Sandoval, dangerous. Tim Naring, native Cincinnati, and of course now longtime scout for the New York Yankees, makes his home here in Cincinnati. In fact, he's here tonight scouting these two clubs. Sandoval, let's say fly ball up into short right field. Phillips backpedaling, and he'll watch Jay Bruce behind and make the play. 1 out. But Tim Naring said that's the thing about Sandoval. He might be going bad, he might be in a slump, but every time he walks up there, the word that comes to mind is dangerous.
And if you're looking at that from Bronson Arroyo's point of view, you make your pitches, you're going to get the guy out. But if you leave one over the plate, or if you spin one of those breaking balls up there, or if the fastball doesn't stay in when you want it to stay in and it runs back over the heart of the plate, that's when the danger comes into mind.
Breaking ball just off the corner. 1-1 to Hunter Pence, who led the National League in runs batted in last year. 13 home runs, 42 runs batted in, 22 doubles for Pence. Of course, he was their big acquisition at the trade deadline. And boy, what an acquisition it was coming over from Philadelphia.
And not only offensively, but in the clubhouse and defensively as well. He's out there every day.
Way off balance on that breaking ball and into foul ground. Frazier 5 up 5 down for Arroyo.
You watch some of these Giants players and they will take some funky swings, and you think, how does this guy hit 300 swinging like that? They have their game plan and they stick to it.
2 away in the inning, and now here's Brandon Belt, the guy you said that Bronson needs to keep an eye on.
This is the one guy that bothers me in this lineup because he's hitting 6, so you think, all right, well, I'm not going to worry about him too much. He can hit, and he is making progress, just increments each and every year.
Breaking ball low, 2 balls and no strikes.
Tom, you and I were talking about this before the game. Belt was the guy that was taken out of the lineup when Posey came out from behind the plate for a couple of days and went to first. That would put a chip on my shoulder if it was me. I'm the everyday first baseman and you take me out of the lineup. Now I'm sure he's never going to say that publicly, but it's got to hurt somewhere.
3-1 to Brandon Belt with 2 down and nobody on. We're scoreless in the top of the second inning, and you see in 9 games against the Reds, good hitting numbers for Brandon Belt. 3-1 delivery on the way, and try to come in on it with a fastball, and it's ball 4. First base runner of the game for either team. Good crowd on hand tonight. I'm sure there'd be even more here, but many, I would think, that were considering walking up and buying tickets tonight may have been a little bit skeptical of the weather. And we're going to keep our fingers crossed that it stays dry. There's that chance of the rain all night long, as Tim Hedrick told you a little while ago. Brandon Belt 3 of 4 in stolen base attempts. And now the number 7 hitter back in a Giants uniform again this year is Andres Torres.
Yeah, there was some major rain up north of the city, up 275 I-71 area, because I was in it. Smarter.
I got in the car and closed the door right before it hit.
Well, I got out of it thinking I was going to make it to the door.
Into right field. Bruce is there, inning over. So are you still drying out?
Yes, I am.
You are.
Literally.
Well, we got to get a towel, because if there's a puddle underneath your chair, I was worried about you.
Is that rain?
No. Baseball everywhere you go. Text at bat to 31826 or visit Reds.com for details. Again, that's 31826. Text at bat. Reds and the Giants in the first of 4 from here at Great American Ballpark. We'll have night games tomorrow. We'll have a night game on the 3rd of July, Wednesday, and that's when they're having the big fireworks celebrating Independence Day. Thursday, they'll wind it up with a afternoon tilt. That's a 1:10 game. Normally during the week we have 12:35. Thursday, 1:10. Then the Mariners are in town Friday night. Afternoon games Saturday and Sunday. And Friday night, of course, is another fireworks night. Tonight we have over 1,000 students, faculty, staff, and alumni from Xavier University, including XU basketball coaches Chris Mack and Amy Waugh. They threw out the first pitches tonight. Xavier night is in celebration of the school's first official day in the new Big East Conference. Brandon Phillips on the first pitch from Mike Kingham. Here in the second inning, a single into center field.
You could see this coming for Brandon Phillips in Texas. The extended at bats, not the results of the bats, if you will, but just the swings, starting to get that front shoulder closed, keeping his front half over the plate, staying on the outside pitch. Brandon Phillips is coming.
Well, no one is happier to put the month of June behind him than Brandon Phillips. We've talked about it all the time. He got hit on the left forearm as Bruce first pitch swinging. Drives one into left center field. That baby's off the wall. Phillips is going to be held at third on the double by Jay Bruce, and the Reds in business here in the second inning. 2 pitches, 2 hits.
Tremendous job of reading that ball by Brandon Phillips. He realized right out of the chute that the left fielder Torres had no chance to get to that ball. Jay Bruce can hammer the ball the other way. Of course, he can hammer it on a lot of different places, but when he stays closed and is shooting the ball that way, that is his key to success against left-handed pitching, and it has really been evident this year.
So now a golden chance to get at least 2 here in the inning with 2nd and 3rd and nobody out. A couple of ground balls will take care of all that. Frazier down a strike. Frazier, without a doubt, had the best at bats of all the Reds yesterday against Yu Darvish. Now, granted, he had 1 hit and 3 at bats against him, but all 3 were rockets.
All 3 were hit hard. He's letting the ball travel deeper into the strike zone. In other words, he's waiting longer, not trying to jump out there so quickly.
Todd at only 238. 9 home runs, 37 runs batted in. Second and 3rd, none out, 1-1, and kick him to the plate. On the inside corner, and it's strike 2.
It's almost a crossfire type delivery for Mike Kickham.
And there's a base hit into left field by Frazier. 1 run scores. They're going to hold Jay Bruce. Run scoring single by Frazier. That's his first hit in his last 18 at bats with a runner in scoring position. And the Reds have a 1-0 lead.
Tried to cut a fastball in on Frazier, and the ball stayed flat. And Frazier went right to the sweet part of the bat.
So now the shortstop, Zach Kozard. They're on the corners, none out here in the Reds' 2nd inning, looking to put up a big number against Kickham. And that's a liner into left field and caught out there by Torres, but good enough to drive in a run. 2-0 Cincinnati.
Tom, I think that ball caught Torres more than he caught the ball. That ball was heading over his head. He just happened to reach up right at the proper time to make the catch. That was a bullet. That pitch right over the heart of the plate. Ball was still rising by the time Torres got to it.
That gave you an idea of how hard that ball was hit. We ran that catch in slow motion. And it was still fast.
Yes.
So now Ryan Hannigan, runner at first, 2 runs in, 1 out. Ryan rolled over his ankle, you may remember, when the team was in Arizona to begin that last road trip, and was unable to go through Oakland and Texas over the weekend. So you know Devin Mesoraco, while he would rather be in a lineup, probably enjoying a day off.
It was warm in Texas, and folks forget about the collision with the center fielder Angel Beltre and Mesoraco. Beltre got the worst of it, but there was some knee issues for Mesoraco, and he was waving everybody off. He knew that game was his.
I think any human being who runs into Devin Mesoraco,
they're going to get the worst of it.
Maybe outside of Andrew Whitworth, they're in big trouble. One and one on Ryan Hannigan, and kick him a lead. Checking at first base by Frazier, and it's tapped foul. 1-2.
See Hannigan shaking his head for a moment. He's trying to shoot the ball through that Scudero Brandon Belt hole on the right side, but he got out in front of that breaking ball just a bit. Toughest part of this catching tandem with Mesoraco and Hannigan. The days off, you lose your timing. One day off, not a big deal. When you start talking 2 and 3 days off, that plays with your head a little bit. You face enough pitchers in one game this day and age to mess your timing up anyway.
Down and in, 3-2 on Hannigan.
A lot of strikes in the first inning for Mike Kickham. You start putting the bat on the baseball, young pitchers start trying to hunt for the corners. And when you're hunting for the corners, more times than not, that ball is going to be off the plate.
Slow roll. This could be an infield hit even for Hannigan. And it is, as Sandoval tried to barehand it and came up empty. That ends a 0-for-12 streak for Ryan Hannigan.
Sandoval tried to round it off and get the bare hand down to it. It wasn't happening. Dave Righetti out talking to the youngster Kickham. At this point, Righetti having the discussion as much with Posey about what to do as he is with the youngster Kickham.
Well, 1 out. The Giants are betting defensively that Arroyo's going to bunt. He already shortens up on the bat. And he lays it down perfectly. Pitcher whiffed, but Sandoval is there. 2 out.
Kickham really got off the mound quickly to get to that baseball. Even if he comes up with it, Tom, there's nobody at third base anyway. Sandoval came charging in once that ball was headed towards third. That ball hits the glove of Kickham at all there. He's in trouble.
So now the Giants are still tucked in on the corners even with 2 outs, the way that Derek Robinson can bunt. And maybe that'll give him a chance to slap something right by somebody. Or bounce it over their head. 2 runs are going to score, and that's what happens when your speed forces a defense to come in. A 2-run single, make it a double for Derek Robinson.
Robinson, more times than not, is going to try to shoot the ball the other way or bunt, as you said, Tom. So they try to come in on him. He gets enough of the bat to the baseball, drives it right into the ground, and look at that huge hop over the Panda's head.
That is a first pitch that Derek Robinson has swung at, if you can believe this. The last 17 pitches that he had seen. Didn't swing at 1 pitch in his first at bat tonight. That was over 3 plate appearances. He had 1 walk and 3 strikeouts. And just a hard bouncer over the head of Sandoval. A 2-run double and a 4-0 lead.
2 out RBI is awfully tough to come by. And Robinson picks up 2 right there.
Chu lined out hard to the left fielder, and again they are shading him to hit the ball the other way. If he hits it in the right center field gap, he might be able to run around the bases twice.
That is some big time shift right there.
Three and 1.
Biggest issue for Kickham right now is getting the ball over the plate.
3-1 the count, and Kickham now delivers. And a strike. Chu thought it was ball 4. I mean, he didn't even debate it. Thought it was high.
3-1 breaking ball.
Slow roller to Crawford. And that's all for the Reds. But how about the second inning? 5 hits producing 4 runs for nothing. We go to the third. Lawyers for serious injuries. Call 1-800-ELK-OHIO. Well, let's take a look back to this time a year ago, Cowboy. The Reds this year, they have a better win-loss record, 10 over as opposed to 6 over. Higher batting average, scored more runs. ERA's pretty much a wash. The only one area where there's a distinct difference, the bullpen ERA. Last year, a little over 2.5. This year, over 3.5.
I think it all goes back to looking at Sean Marshall and Jonathan Broxton. Neither have been their normal selves, and you just hope that as June turns to July and towards the All-Star break, both of those guys will be back healthy and ready to go. You have a healthy setup crew, especially with the likes of Marshall and Broxton. You can really shorten the game and get the ball to Chapman.
That is a foul ball by the shortstop Brandon Crawford, quickly behind 0-2 to begin the Giant third inning. Well, you talk about a guy scuffling. Crawford hitless in his last 13, 5 for his last 39. So he was going real good before this first slump of the year. Because when you're 5 for 39, that batting average starts falling quickly. And he's still at 269. I tell you, you got a number 8 hitter who's knocked in 28 runs. That ain't bad.
You'll take it.
He's got what, 21 extra base hits.
Crawford likes the fastball. More times than not, he is on time with the fastball, and that tests his patience here tonight against Arroyo.
And wouldn't you know it, he drives one into deep left center, but Chu will track it down.
That's a nice play.
So he runs very well.
Reds played him opposite of where that ball went up, and you could see Chu in your picture there as the ball came off the bat. You could see the full break of Chu and how far he had to go from right center field all the way over to in front of the bullpen for the Reds to make that catch in left center field.
Left-handed pitcher, left-handed batter is a rookie Mike Kickham. Hitless in his first 2 major league at bats. Kickham has still not pitched a game in San Francisco. They just brought him up before this road trip. His first 2 major league starts coming in Los Angeles. Had another against the Oakland Athletics. Chad Gaudin went down, and that's another Giant starter on the disabled list, along with the previously mentioned Ryan Vogelsong. That ball is hammered. It'll one-hop the wall in right center field, and they'll throw that ball back into the Giant dugout on the first big league hit from Mike Kickham.
Yeah, for Kickham, even in Fresno in AAA, he was having a difficult time pitching away from his home ballpark. He was 1-3 in AAA with a 5.5 ERA. Like Arroyo just took something off the fastball, tried to locate it down and away, and the ball didn't quite have the late movement that Arroyo normally has.
Back to the top of the order, and Gregor Blanco, he popped up weakly to the shortstop. Zach Cozart, his first time up. Boy, Tim Flannery, it's like he's running a little 880. Having to run out there to second base and get the elbow pad of Kickham, and then run it back to the dugout, and then run right back out there to third base. Well, he's been right alongside Bruce Bochy for a long time, as Tim Flannery.
All through his years in San Diego. Flannery's a pretty good player in that San Diego Padre uniform.
Yes, he was. And of course, he grew up just down the road in Kentucky. Still has a lot of family. In fact, every time Flannery comes into town, he has family that make the trip in. Caught by Cozart. Boy, the timing spectacular on that line drive.
Well, if you don't jump right on time there, that ball just evades your glove. You could see Cozart wait for a moment and then spring into action. Caught that ball behind him. Check it out. A heck of a play.
Man, that's a heck of a play.
Tell you, when you play shortstop in the big leagues, it is all about the glove. You can't make the plays, you're not going to play. I don't care how much you get. They'll move you to third.
I'd saved a run right there. 2 away in the inning with a runner at second base. And now it's Scudero, struck out on 3 pitches his first time up.
And I say that because Cozart makes all the plays. He has not swung the bat yet. It's 4 straight breaking balls. He's taken every one of them.
This guy's a good hitter.
Yes, he is. He likes to shoot the ball right over the head of Brandon Phillips. That is his avenue.
Well, they paid Scudero a king's ransom to stay in San Francisco. We told you 2 years ago, midway through the year, they brought him over from the Rockies. He had the great postseason. Great time to do that. Had other clubs, most notably the St. Louis Cardinals, were so interested in bringing in Scudero to be their second baseman. And you'd have to say for the Cardinals that worked out rather nicely. They're paying Matt Carpenter a little bit more than the league minimum.
Yeah. And Carpenter has been on fire. I think there were plenty of folks out there that knew Carpenter would hit. The question was, could he play defensively as well as he's done? He has been phenomenal.
On the ground, Votto. Arroyo's waiting, and the inning is over. Couple of great defensive plays. One very, very good one, more accurately by True Chu, and a great one by Kozar. Miller Lite. Well, we remind you now on FoxSportsOhio.com. Told you earlier, Xavier officially joining the Big East today. Kevin Goheen has more on today's festivities. College football guru Phil Steele. Boy, his publications are unbelievable. He has his predictions for 2013 for both the Buckeyes and the Bearcats. And, of course, you can go to Game Connect and click on Game Talk during every Reds home game to chat with the Hall of Famer Hal McCoy. It's all brought to you by 1-800-SAFE-AUTO. Drive safe. Spend less. Alongside Jeff Brantley, our producer Josh Hall, our director Roy Alfers, Matt Sigafus, Lauren White, our entire Fox Sports Ohio crew. Pleasure to have you with us from Great American Ballpark, where the Reds got 4 runs off rookie Mike Kickham in the second inning and carry a 4-0 lead into the last of the third. Where's Kent Weaver, our pre and post game producer, Jim Strickler, Jesse Jackson, our statistician Joel Luckup, all up here in the booth on a great night. And I think Dickie Moss actually lives in this booth. He's been here for so long.
Got him a tunnel down at Great American Ballpark. Home away from home.
Joey Votto struck out looking on a 3-2 pitch against Kickham, ending the first inning. He'll be followed by Brandon Phillips and Jay Bruce. Phillips and Bruce were the ones who ignited that 4-run, 5-hit second inning. And this is a roller by the mound. And Sandoval once more can't find a handle.
Well, you made reference to Sandoval earlier when he came to the plate. And I'll tell you, Tom, he's much bigger than what we saw last year in San Francisco at the end of the year. And he just can't get to the ball. He had a tough time bending over to get to the ball on the slow roller down the third baseline. He had a tough time getting to that ball.
And believe me, the Giants have talked to Sandoval about this repeatedly over the last couple of years. I mean, Bruce Bochy a couple of years ago was none too happy when he showed up in spring training and was built a lot like he's built right now.
Right.
And then Sandoval, you know, dropped the weight, got himself in shape, had a really, really good year. I mean, he's a really good player.
He is a terrific player. I mean, he's a terrific player where he's at right now. 20 pounds less, he'd be as good as it gets. But that's up to Pablo. That's not up to everybody else.
Well, he scored an infield hit for Joey Votto. So here's Brandon, who singled on the first pitch from Kickham into center field and scored the first of the 4 runs. I was talking very briefly with Dusty last night on the team plane flying back from Texas. And we were talking about how athletic that Texas Rangers team is. Boy, they have guys.
Amazing.
That every time you turn around. Now, not every player on the team is an athletic player. But just making reference, it seemed like in the bigger moments of that series, whether it was Beltre, Martin, Andrews, you know, the 3 out of 4 or 5 guys in that lineup that can run, they were always on
Angel
base.
Beltre.
Yes.
That's ENGEL
yes.
Beltre. Even though Adrian Beltre still can hit the baseball.
Oh, yeah. But my, oh, my. That, I don't know about you, Cowboy, because you're on the radio side. That's the most aggressive team on offense I have seen in a long time. 4
different outfielders, all can run. And they've got 3 middle infielders for 2 spots now that you add Jerks and Profar to the Kinsler and Elvis Andrus mix. And they can all play. And they can all take a base when they have to.
And they run when they have to.
Yes, they do.
2-1 delivery.
What was surprising about that series, Tom, they did not come to the ballpark and just take off running right out of the gate. They saved it for when they had to have it. It was almost like a surprise event. The squeeze bunt, perfection. But all you had to do in that situation is get the ball down. And they did. I don't think we threw out 1 base run.
No, not one. Straight away center field. Easy play for Blanco to the glove side. 1 out. Well, if a Red hits a really long home run like off that Toyota sign tonight, John Newman of Batavia, Ohio, way out east off 32, will win the beautiful new Tundra on display here at Great American Ballpark. And you can register for your chance to win it. Just stop by your Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky Toyota dealer. That's on the way to Athens, Ohio, when you jump on 32.
Yeah, that's where that ball would have to be hitting to Athens in order to hit that sign out there.
Bruce can get it.
Yes. Well, he's landed to the right, and I'm not sure if Bruce has been to the left of it. But we know that Frazier has. Votto has. Batter's eye is taking a beating on certain occasions.
Jay, a double over the left fielder's head that banged off the wall and then scored in the 4-run second inning.
The offense was not all amiss in June. This is the guy that hit the ball quite well. 10 home runs in that month. He had a heck of a streak going heading into that last road trip.
Two and 1 to Bruce, looking for something he can hammer right here from Kickham. And he drops it into shallow center field. That'll be another base hit. So Bruce begins July 2 out of 2.
See Jay get to that ball. It's cutting away from him. And the biggest key there is, as the ball cuts away, is staying flat in the strike zone. That Exmo replay courtesy of Performance Honda. I love that Exmo. Slow it down so I can check it out.
Now Frazier, a run scoring single, his only time up tonight. That was into left field. He looks at ball one low. And the one pattern they certainly tried to establish in that first at bat against Frazier. They came inside seemingly with every pitch, including the one that he banged into left field.
Looks like they're trying to do it again. Frazier inside out with that swing. Giants have a pitcher up in their pen already. Jake Dunning, right-hander, warming up for the Giants. You're right, Tom. They just keep pitching Frazier in.
You do that enough, sooner or later, a hitter might cheat.
He will cheat on one and unload.
Yep. And he did. And that is launched into left center field. See you later.
Frazier has worked so hard on trying to hit the ball into that right center field gap. But this swing is Todd Frazier. You don't get it in. Ball stays up and out over the plate. And even that pitch, Frazier got his hands inside of the ball and just clocked it.
Yeah, that wasn't a cheat swing. I mean, we were talking about it, but that was not a cheat swing to hammer something. He just got a good swing, a good pitch to hit.
Good swing. But when you're seeing pitches, nothing but inside breaking balls, inside fastballs, the hips are a little bit quicker to open when you see it out in front of the plate.
Frazier, 2 at-bats to begin this month of July. A single, a home run, 4 runs batted in. And the Reds are in front 7-0. We're in the 3rd. Now this is the way you start off a homestand.
No doubt about it. A lot of it is mindset, being comfortable. Just go out and play the game.
Cozart pops it up. Second baseman Studerow, the call and a catch, 2 out.
Every team is going to have a tough run. The teams that have the fewest of those tough runs are going to be there when October comes around.
So now Ryan Hannigan with the bases empty and 2 men out. Hannigan had an infield single to keep that second inning alive. Wound up scoring on the 2-out, 2-run double by Derek Robinson. You know, that's a measure that you just can't quantify or qualify about what speed can do for a player and or a team. That's a routine one-hopper to the third baseman. But with 2 outs in the inning, The Giants had to be so concerned about Robinson bunting that they had the first baseman on the grass, Sandoval on the grass, and that routine one hopper otherwise is a double down the left field line.
And the biggest issue there, they just did not want to give up that single run that would have scored on the bunt if it's successful. That's why they play the infield in.
Looks like it may be a very, very short night for Mr. Kickham. He probably has this batter, and that might be all. You do have the pitcher on deck. And there are 2 away in the inning. Pulled foul.
And if you're Bruce Bochy, you would just like for the youngster to get through the inning. You know the pitcher is coming up. Regardless of what Hannigan does here, it's still a 7-0 ball game. You know you're going to have to burn your bullpen up here early.
Good at batting by Hannigan.
Kickham has had decent physical stuff as far as his fastball and breaking ball, but he has had a lot of pitches that he has left up and over the plate, and those get hit.
3-2 on Ryan Hannigan. Oh, he's a big, strong young man.
Yeah, he's got a great pitcher's body. You look at him and you think, all right, left-hander. 92, 93 mile an hour fastball. Only 24 years old, just has a little bit more to go.
He's got that body of a young Sean Estes.
Yes, he does.
Very broad in the shoulders, very lean through the middle part of the body. Of course, Estes came up originally, I believe it was originally with the Giants.
Yes, he did.
He had his best seasons with the Giants.
Yes.
Ninth pitch in this at bat, 30th pitch in the inning. Hannigan taking a long time to get in that box in between pitches. Now he's ready. And so is Kickham. There'll be a 10th pitch. This is precisely the kind of at bat that Ryan Hannigan needs. When you haven't played in a week like you brought up earlier, you may not cap it off with a base hit, but this is a real good plate appearance for Hannigan.
Right. You just want to see as many pitches as you possibly can. Of course, you'd like to get a base hit, but short of that, you want to see as many as possible. Get back in the rhythm.
So pitch number 11 now upcoming to Ryan Hannigan. This kind of at bat was so few and far between on that road trip.
You start not hitting as a team, and each individual tries to do too much.
Liner into right center field, and it gets by the diving Blanco and will roll to the wall. Hannigan will go in standing up with a double.
That is Ryan Hannigan right there. Saw a lot of pitches in that bat, as you said, Tom, and driving the ball the other way. Tell you, Blanco had a shot, just didn't quite get the glove down there in time with the dive.
That's going to do it for Mr. Kickham. We wondered if he would get even another batter, and after that extended at bat by Hannigan, Bruce Bochy will come and get him. 2 2/3, 9 hits, and so far 7 earned runs. This will be our Skyline Chili call to the bullpen. Kroger meal deal, we call it. Check out concession stands around the ballpark. It includes a hot dog, a 16-ounce Coke, chips, and during this homestand, Blue Diamond almonds. Those are mighty good. Make sure you get to your Kroger meal deal during your next visit right here to Great American Ballpark.
New pitcher for the Giants will be Jake Dunning, 0-1 on the year with a 2.16 earned run average. He's pitched in 8 ball games. Put zeros on the board in 7 of those. Just made his debut on June 16th of this year.
Well, he's already pitching in his 9th game. And he comes in to face a pitcher, Arroyo, who had a sacrifice bunt, which helped lead to 2 additional runs in that 4-run second inning. Reds have gotten a 3-run home run in this 3rd from Todd Frazier. It's a good breaking ball right there.
Reminds me of when I came up with the Giants, Tom. You're out of the bullpen when you came into a ball game, regardless of where it was. One of your first 2 pitches had to be a breaking ball. And even though he's facing the pitcher, first pitch fastball, second pitch breaking ball.
Now that was back in the day when you had Roger Craig as a manager. Who was the guy, I'm forgetting the name, the longtime pitching coach he had with him there?
Norm Sherry.
Norm Sherry.
Norm Sherry. Bob Lillis.
Gone swinging Arroyo, and that's all for the Reds. But Todd Frazier, a 3-run home run. And the Reds extend their lead at the end of 3 over the Giants, 7-0. Arroyo, his home record and ERA over the last 5 years by year. Tell you what, pitching in this ballpark, and really for 2011, that's a year in his career that you should just throw out the window. Because that was the year, you may remember, during spring training, he came down with valley fever. He had back issues a whole year long. He still never missed a start. But that year he gave up nearly 50 home runs that year. He just wasn't Bronson Arroyo. It's the only inning of his major league career where he did not pitch 200 or more innings. He threw 199. But boy, he has been the rock of this starting rotation since he came here from Boston.
And you have to remember, if you haven't been in this ballpark and seen the ball fly, this is not a ballpark that was created for a pitcher like Bronson Arroyo. And he's done an awfully good job here.
Part of the Giant order with the Reds leaving 7-0. And it's Posey, Sandoval, and Pence. Posey struck out swinging. His only time up. Giants have one hit, and that was by the pitcher who's no longer in the game. Hook to the left side. One out.
That swing there by Posey, that's what Bronson Arroyo wants to have Giants hitters doing all the time. Breaking ball away. Watch the bat of Posey. Lunging out. You could see the face almost in frustration as he reaches for the ball. That's what Bronson Arroyo wants all the time.
Pablo Sandoval popped up into short right. His only time up. There, strike one. But there's a Kung Fu Panda hat. You see lots of those
in San Francisco.
Yeah, a lot of those.
Oh, look out.
Out is right. That ball, I think, hit a Giant in the dugout. And then ricocheted to the back part of the dugout. Was that Blanco that it hit?
It looked like it. Looked like it hit him right off the hip or off the side of the leg.
He did not go around, according to Field and Culberth. 1-2. Blanco's sort of limping around in that dugout. I don't know where it got him. Maybe he's all right.
Looked like it got him on the left leg. He moved, I know that. He's not in the same spot.
No. Oh boy. Second effort, a third effort, and that fella still came up empty. Now they're going to flip it to him in the stands. No, they're not. Now watch this guy come over to try and get it. Okay, it's going to ricochet, dugout. Now watch this guy. Effort. Effort. Ugh. Goodbye.
Oh. Close.
Cozart on the first base side of the bag, throws out Sandoval.
He's close enough to Brandon where they could shake hands after he made that play.
You know, when you're in the stands and you end up on your boiler trying to get a foul ball, that's giving it up.
That's major effort.
He's still talking about it. He can't believe. Look at this. It's right there.
I had it. It was in my hand. Oh.
Oh. Oh. He can't believe it.
And there's not many times in the stands where you get horizontal anyway.
No. There are only a couple places you can do it. Although I don't know if you noticed, I thought we were going to have a brawl in the stands in Texas the other day.
Yes, I did too. I thought they were livid with each other about climbing over. The one guy got it, the little girl didn't.
Yeah.
The mama was mad. The dad
was she mad?
The dad was like, let it go. I think she called him a punk. She was not happy.
No. Mama was very mad.
Take that ball from my girl.
Ground ball left side. Cozart trying to make it 3 out of 3 in the inning, and he does.
He makes all the plays.
Reds batting last to the 4th inning, leading 7-0. Toyota. See your Toyota dealer. Visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. And by JTM Food Group, creating great dishes together. Beautiful night along the riverfront. Of course, that's part of the brand new park they put in along the banks. Well, they did a beautiful job with that entire project. Not only the bars and the restaurants and the apartments, but right there. And that park will run from beyond Paul Brown Stadium. They run out of room, of course, right along Mering Way, right out here beyond the right field stands, but then it picks up again back along Sawyer Point. What a job they have done.
The thing that I've noticed, Tom, is not only the restaurants and, you know, the night spots for, you know, young folks and people to go out for dinner, but it's a great place for your family and your kids just to walk along the river. I mean, it is gorgeous, safe, nice, perfect.
Seven runs tonight, the most by the Reds since the 11th of June at Chicago when they scored 12. You've got to go all the way back to the month of May since they have scored this many runs at home. The most runs they've scored, you got to go all the way back to the 28th of May when they scored 8 in a win against the Cleveland Indians. So Dunning on a relief of Kickham, who allowed all 7 runs and all 7 of them earned. Dunning has faced 2 batters and retired them both. Chu 0 for 2 is lined to short and grounded to lined to left and grounded to short.
Chu can make it awfully difficult on right-handed pitchers. You either make the perfect pitch or he's going to put the bat to it, line driving it somewhere. Two strikes by Dunning, one right on the outside corner, one right on the inside corner. Just barely edging the edge of the plate.
Fly ball left field, and again that's precisely where Torres is standing for out number 2.
Votto comes to the plate. It almost appears as though his eyes are looking to where the shortstop is playing, and then he picks up the pitcher. So many times we've seen him hit the ball just in that shortstop hole, just to the left of the shortstop or just to the right of where he's playing. A lot easier said than done. Kid Dunning not overpowering. All he's doing is just trying to keep the ball down, mix it up a little bit, and move the ball from side to side on the plate.
1-2 on Votto. Fastball up and in. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's his size. Maybe it's the way he releases the ball. But Cowboy, you know, his fastball is anywhere from 89 to 92. But it looks like it's a lot harder than that, doesn't it?
Got that last bit of extension as the ball comes plateward. Slow on the backside, and once he gets the ball midway through his arm arc, he really speeds it up. Kind of like he's sneaking up on the hitter. Just slow, 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 and then bam.
That's check swing, and a foul ball. Remains 3-2 on Votto.
Well, there it looked like it had a little spin on it. Posey paused for a moment, hoping it would roll back towards the plate, because if the ball is on the plate, it is a fair ball. If it is touching the plate, the edges, it is a fair ball. Very similar to as if it's on the base paths, the chalk line, if you will.
Once more, 3-2, and that time got him swinging. Good off-speed pitch there, and the inning is over on that changeup. Go to the fifth, 7-0 Reds.
Jim Day with you, and it is Xavier night at the ballpark, and my pleasure to introduce you to the new athletic director at Xavier University, Greg Christopher. And I tell you what, you picked a pretty good time to become the athletic director at Xavier. Today is the first official day that you are in the new Big East Conference. It has to be special for everyone involved.
It's a great day for Xavier, Jim, and it's an exciting time to be here, not only with at the Reds game, but obviously this has been in the works a long time, really probably 20+ years, frankly, to get to this point, and then it's a great day.
You brought a lot of luck with you. Now, it's been a full day of activities for you guys. I know you had festivities on Fountain Square. You've got over 1,000 tickets, 1,000 people here, out here in the outfield. This has to be a terrific day for you. How are you enjoying the ballpark?
It's been fantastic. Again, a great day on Fountain Square. We had probably over 1,000 people out there, and now, like you said, between 1,000 and 2,000 people here. A lot of celebration today, and now we get the work of the Big East coming up.
Yeah, when the excitement wears off of being in the new Big East Conference, then all of a sudden you're staring at some stiff competition in every sport across the board. I'm sure your student athletes are ready for the challenge.
Yeah, the student athletes and the coaches, we have to be big enough for the stage at this point. It's a great opportunity, but now we've got to be ready coming into the year. But I know our coaches are excited, and it's been fantastic for recruiting.
Well, you brought some luck here tonight. We certainly appreciate that. 7 runs. You show up at the ballpark. You may be a good luck charm.
That's what we were just talking about. You know, Xavier Day. It's good to get the bats out for the Reds again. Good way to start the homestand.
Well, we would like to officially welcome you to town. And Tom and Cowboy, he has some Cincinnati roots. This guy was a graduate of Miami University, played football there, and of all things, was also a broadcaster. Before Fox Sports Ohio, it was called Sports Channel. And this guy used to do Miami games on Sports Channel, but he smartened up and got into college administration.
How about that?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Very cool.
Hey, Jim, are you still there?
I am.
Ask him what was his record as a Miami football player against Ohio University. I want to know right now.
Tom Brenneman, the Ohio University grad, would like to know your record as a football player against the Bobcats.
Well, since I was on the team only 1 year before I got hurt, I believe we got beat by the Bobcats that 1 year. But I think the overall record, Miami versus Ohio, speaks for itself on the Redskins, Red Hawks side.
Jay Bruce not going to be able to get to that one, and that is a home run to right field by Brandon Belton. That's a guy, Cowboy, you thought might present some problems tonight.
Well, it presents a problem for Bronson Arroyo in the earned run average category, but right now for the Reds with a 7-0 lead, that home run just gives them a 6-run lead. Looked like a pitch down in the zone, and Brandon Belt just pulled it out of the ballpark. Jay Bruce, if it had stayed anywhere close to the wall, he makes the catch. I tell you, he is as good around that wall as any I've seen. He knows how to get there and how to get up.
And there's strike. Jim Day, do me a favor. Please let him know that I'm just playing with him a little bit. He knows that, right?
Tom Brenneman wants you to know he was just playing around a little bit. But I didn't notice that he was an OU grad. He only throws it in. I don't know. 162 times.
He was too busy. Probably Tom was a little too busy on Halloween weekend.
Oh,
that was every weekend.
That was every weekend for him, he said. You can book that.
Well, good luck to Xavier. That is very, very exciting. Playing now in the Big East. That ball hit hard as well, but Chu will get to this one, and that's out number 1. And we welcome him to town. It's a very exciting opportunity over there when you go in, Cowboy, to a new conference. There's been all that changing around and moving around. And now Xavier, like he said, they've been building this thing up for a long, long time. And now they'll be going toe-to-toe with some of the real heavyweights in all of college basketball.
Now it's just a matter of staying competitive and continuing to make adjustments and keep your scholarship players where you need them to be. Of course, this day and age in college sports, it's not only about the coaching, but it's about the recruiting as well.
One and one to Brandon Crawford. And beat him with a fastball at 88 did Arroyo. And that's to get ahead at 1 ball and 2 strikes. Well, we understand there is a chance, Cowboy, that there could be some bad weather on the way. I mean, we'll keep our fingers crossed, and hopefully Mother Nature will keep it dry. But my, oh my, it's rare our weather comes from the south. This time of year, most of the time, comes from the west. Virtually everything Indianapolis gets, we tend to get. Not all the time, but a lot of the summer. A lot of the year. But right now that weather is coming from the south. And if you look over beyond the rolling hills of Kentucky, beyond the right field wall, it's not dark because it's getting close to nighttime. So Arroyo, after this comebacker to the mound, is 1 out away from putting 5 innings in the books.
And 5 innings being big when you have a 7-1 lead Because if this baby gets rained out, the Giants have had their 5 times at the plate, and it would be a legit game. Guillermo Quiros will be pinch hitting. He's been doing the catching for the last couple of days with Buster Posey playing first base.
Big swing and a miss. Guillermo Quiros getting a chance to bat. They don't want to burn through, a single reliever. They're just going to have to work this thing as long as they can through a number of different pitches. When you're coming off a long weekend in Denver, you're going to use a lot of pitches. So 5 innings in the books. And the Reds with a 7-1 lead. On Fox Sports Ohio with Reds Live. Reds Live is presented by Ray St. Clair Roofing, and we'll come your way again tomorrow night at 6:30, as we will the next night, and then an afternoon tilt here on Thursday. All right, our AT&T trivia question: prior to Buster Posey, who was the last catcher to win the National League's Most Valuable Player Award? That's a good question. Now,
yes, it is.
You're thinking recent history. The guy who was, I think everybody would agree, I think Johnny Bench might even agree, statistically anyway, the greatest force from an offensive standpoint behind the plate,
Piazza.
Mike Piazza. But did he ever win an MVP?
I don't know if he did.
I don't think he did.
I don't think he did either.
Well, a lot of folks scurrying for cover. Those that brought ponchos, those that brought umbrellas are using them now. Talked about it being dark. Dark clouds carrying rain. Trying to think of any other. Gary Carter, the late great Gary Carter, had an outstanding career in the National League. Long time. Hall of Fame career. Of course, the first name we think of around here is Johnny Bench. And we know he won an MVP.
Yes. Good question.
He won 2 of them. 2 within a 3-year time frame.
Giants have a new pitcher on the mound, George Cantos. This has not been a great start to 2013 for Contos. He's actually appealing a suspension for hitting Andrew McCutcheon earlier in the season. That's how he's allowed to pitch right now, but he could just as easily be suspended tomorrow.
And Brandon, a base hit into left center field to start the 5th inning. His 2nd hit in 3 at-bats. He had a single to begin the 4-run 2nd. Boy, you hate to call it pointing fingers. Well, why does it always seem to get back to the Pirates with somebody? That's about the 2nd or 3rd time we've been talking, and we know about all the issues with the Reds. They've played, what, 9 games, and nearly 20 batters have been hit in those 9 games.
Well, it's kind of is it the chicken or the egg? Which one comes first when you talk about the Pirates? They lead the league in hitting batters, but they also lead the league in getting hit.
That's right.
So are they hitting first and then their guy gets hit, or is it the other way around? I guess it depends on whether you have on the Pirate colors or whether you have on somebody else's.
And that is precisely what Clint Hurdle said when he was here the last time, when everything was starting up again between the Pirates and the Reds on their most recent trip in here. He said, look, all of this depends on what dugout you're sitting in. Meaning, did the Reds start it? They probably say they didn't. Where we sit, maybe you see it the other way. And that's perfectly logical.
And it's just the way the game operates. Especially if it's one of the guys in your locker room that feels like he has been slighted. Lightning.
Now, if that Lightning gets any closer, they will stop the game.
Yes, they will. Breaking ball started in the heart of the plate, took a dip. It's the same pitch that Phillips hit, albeit the ball was a little higher in the strike zone.
A very, very limited schedule around Major League Baseball today and tonight. This is one of only 7 games being played in the entire big leagues. Neither the Cardinals nor the Pirates are playing tonight. Dave Bruce gone on strikes, 1 away here in the 5th. Pirates will be at home after a long, very successful road trip. Came back home to take care of Milwaukee in extra innings yesterday, and day off today. They'll take on the Phillies starting tomorrow night. Todd Frazier, the batter. 2 for 2, 4 runs batted in.
See a lot of hitters trying to keep their bats from getting wet.
Well, they continue to try and crowd Frazier over and over and over in his first at bat, again in his second at bat, and then he just jumped all over that pitch for the 3-run home run. Frazier now with 10 home runs, 41 runs batted in. Boy, they've come in bunches, haven't they?
Yes, they have. That's the pitch that gives him trouble right there. This is our Mazda pitch by pitch. It is an unsuccessful at bat for Todd. Fastball misses down. Breaking ball here. Frazier comes up empty. Fastball for a strike. Now watch where the body goes here. Slider off the plate away, and when you're hitting up here, you have to know where that outside corner is. Contos is just pouring the breaking balls in there.
He must be hanging a lot of those this year.
I would say so. Either that or they've been hitting his fastball, and pitching coach Dave Righetti said, hey, you might want to go to the number 2. Of course, when you come out of the bullpen, you can throw a majority of pitches as breaking balls. If you're in the rotation, your arm will fall off.
Into left center field, hit a long way, and that will bounce up against the wall. This will plate Brandon Phillips all the way from first base. RBI double sack Cozart. He's knocked in 2 tonight. The Reds extend their lead to 8-1.
Well, maybe that's why George Contos is throwing a lot of breaking balls, because the fastball is straight as a string and he leaves it up in the strike zone. And Cozart just tattoos that ball. Fastball middle in. He hit that like he knew it was coming.
Now Ryan Hannigan 2 out of 2, an infield hit, then had an 11 pitch at bat, capped off by a double in the right center his last time up. Playing in the rain. Just started in the middle of this 5th inning.
Looks like it's getting heavier and heavier, Tom.
It is. Well, you brought it up earlier. You got caught in it. I was lucky enough to get in the car right before it. Up where you were talking about 71, right around the 275 area. I mean, and there were other areas.
And it was just
boy, did it rain. Like
a flash flood out of nowhere. Pulled up my car and thought, well, I can run in right quick. I didn't make it. It dropped out of the sky. You know, when the raindrops hurt,
oh yeah,
they're big, and the bigger they are, the wetter you get. It's like one of those pop-up showers at home. Usually there's a little thunder to go with it.
There was none of that today.
No.
Well, now that I think about it, maybe right at the very end there was a little bit of lightning at the end of that thing. I can't remember. Did you not see any?
I did not see any lightning.
Maybe I did.
I heard thunder this morning, but I didn't hear any thunder before I got out of my car. Otherwise, I would not have gotten out of the car.
Those guys out there, they came ready. So now another, not nearly as lengthy as his last one, but another extended pitch at bat from Ryan Hannigan.
I think this tells you when Hannigan is locked in and when he's not. When he's able to fight off the difficult pitches and live for another, he's seeing the ball well.
Good eye there. 7th pitch coming up. He has seen 23 pitches tonight in his 3 plate appearances.
That's a whole lot of pitches.
Three and 2 to count. On Ryan Hannigan, runner out at second base, Zach Kozai. And another foul ball. There'll be a 24th pitch. And a 25th. That was number 24.
If you think about it, Tom, Hannigan is no 188 hitter. He's not a 350 hitter by any means, but he's not a 188 hitter. There are still a lot of hits to be had for Ryan Hannigan.
You hold those arms up there like that long enough, they get mighty tired, Cowboy.
Oh, yes, they do. Sooner or later, that orange thing just going to be laying on their face.
Good ball 4 to Hannigan. Boy, that's another excellent at bat. Been on base all 3 times tonight. All right, we answer now our AT&T trivia question about Buster Posey winning the National League MVP. Who was the last catcher to win it prior to him? We thought maybe Johnny Lee Bench, and there you go. Won it in 70, won it again in 72. And despite some great careers from a couple of guys, we named, and there were some others that we didn't talk about, but especially Carter and Mike Piazza.
Hey, it is tough to squat for a living and still be able to have leg strength to hit when it comes your turn.
Which is precisely why there is a vocal camp, and you can really understand where they're coming from. After Posey broke his ankle a couple of years ago in that collision at home plate, and how he has become the face of this Giants franchise. Why? There are some that say, hey, look, let's don't take that chance anymore. Or taking the foul ball that breaks a finger, or the foul ball that injures the elbow.
Well, there were days for Mike Piazza, if it had not been for Eric Karros, they were talking about moving him to first base early in his career because he was such a phenomenal hitter. And Piazza was having issues with the knees.
But again, if you weren't with us earlier, Posey doesn't want to hear anything about it. A day or 2 here and there at first base, he's all right with that. But he likes being the catcher.
And the thing right now is they have a pretty good first baseman in Brandon Belt, who is getting better each year. Now, if that situation were reversed, where you had a phenomenal kid that could catch and he was coming to the big leagues, or maybe a different kind of situation, Posey may change his mind.
0-2 on Arroyo, and Contos with 2 on delivers. Another foul ball. Well, you can see Contos just shaking his head out there, trying to get through this inning. Hannigan made him work. Bozard had the double to knock in a run after a leadoff single by Phillips. Ahead of Arroyo at 2. Couple of foul balls to extend the at bat.
Well, you look at George Contos, and the only pitch that he's had some success with in this inning has been the breaking ball. 1-pitch pitchers in the big leagues, that doesn't go so well. Even if you throw the ball 100 miles an hour, you still got to mix in a breaking ball every now and then.
2-2. It is just amazing to me, though, Cowboy, how the Reds can go one day. And look, Brooke Jacoby feels the same way. Dusty Baker feels the same way. Everybody that watches this team, and believe me, there are a lot of people watching, a lot of people listening, TV and radio, that love this team, love the franchise. But it is staggering how they'll have games like this where they have at-bats even by the pitcher Arroyo. And we'll get back to that when we return. And then they'll have other games where the pitcher's in his 7th inning and he's thrown 68 pitches.
We need to talk about that.
Reds lead 8-1 in the rain. This coming Thursday. It'll be a day game, 1:10 game now. The Reds Senior Day Special presented by Tri-State Centers for Sight. All Reds fans 60 and older can buy a non-premium ticket at half price. Make sure you purchase in advance of game day to get this special offer. Reds and the Giants, July the 4th, Independence Day, celebrating the greatest country in the world. And again, a reminder, 1:10. I don't ever remember playing a midweek game that wasn't 12:35, but 1:10 for the 4th of July. All right, now Fox Sports Ohio is looking for a new Fox Sports Ohio girl. An open casting is being held during the month of July. If you're born and raised in Ohio and want to be a fan ambassador like Sarah and Christine, go to girls.foxsportsohio.com and submit an application. The casting call for the next Fox Sports Ohio girl will end on July the 24th. Now, I finally just met Christine. I've never met Sarah, but Christine brought her mom up here in the booth on the last homestand. And I got to tell you, not only is she a very attractive gal, that goes without saying, but I got to tell you, smart as can be. Went to the University of Toledo, I think she said.
Yes, she did.
And, boy, just a delightful young lady. Enjoyed meeting her mom. Enjoyed talking to her. You know, they do a lot of great stuff at a lot of different events all over the entire state of Ohio and especially Reds country.
She obviously has great parents. I mean, just the way she carried herself, the way she did the interviews when we were going through the different things that we did. Just her mom was there, was taking some picture. I mean, everything went really good. Good family. They've got their own restaurant too, as a matter of fact, up in Mason.
Yeah, I think she grew up a little bit further north than that, right? A little more country than Mason, didn't she?
Yes. We like country.
Indeed we do. Indeed we do. Well, I tell you, speaking of Mason, as the Reds lead 8-1, the Giants back top of the order here in the 6th. Well, I'd never been up to that Mason High School until today. Well, you talk about a sports facility. Holy Moses, one of the bigger schools around. But the Reds are having one of their Reds baseball camps up there, run by Tim Rapay and his staff. What an unbelievable job they do. But Mason, the proud host of the Reds camp this week.
Tremendous facilities. rain has kind of set in, it appears, and it's just light.
Now, what about gripping the baseball, Cowboy? Is that a big deal, or because they're throwing in so many new balls in this day and age, it doesn't matter?
Right now, it is not that big a deal. If the rain gets any worse than what it is, the water starts to drip down your arm a little bit. You're more worried about your jersey and your pants sticking when you're trying to come to the plate and your footing on the mound.
Broken bat roller by Blanco down to Votto, 1 out.
Because even if the rain is not very hard right now, it still continues to dampen the area that is dirt. And obviously that would qualify on the mound and around home plate. As long as you're not slipping where you land, that's the big key. Scudero has taken a hack at one pitch so far tonight, and he hit it right to Joey Votto.
Struck out on 3 pitches his first time up, all looking. And he's taken 2 in a row to begin this at bat in the 6th. 1 out, nobody on. Reds leading 8-1. Reds got 4 runs in the 2nd. Highlighted by run scoring base hits from Todd Frazier, sac fly RBI by Kozar, 2-run double by Derek Robinson. Todd Frazier hit a 3-run home run in the 3rd, making it 7-0. And then a 2-out run scoring double by Kozar plated Brandon Phillips for a run in the 5th. Back up through the middle, and Kozar right there.
Tom, you were talking about earlier, and when you're getting 3 up, 3 down every inning, it's tough to get in topic. But you were talking about earlier about the difference in hitting on all cylinders and then not hitting at all. And I think that's where the home park advantage comes in, because number one, when you come back to your own place, you're very comfortable mentally. So that immediately takes a little bit of pressure off of you. You don't have to squeeze the bat or the ball so hard. You're not trying to push so hard because there's a comfortability factor there. And I think when you're on the road, you're in a different place and you start to struggle a little bit, that panic starts to set in. And I don't mean panic in a way where everyone's scared. I'm just talking about you don't feel right. And you try to do some different things and they don't work out, and you get further and further away from what's the norm. Now you're back home. You see guys very comfortable tonight, not jumping at the ball. You see the ball well because you're used to this ballpark. And that's the kind of momentum that you want to take with you when you head out on the trip. That positive vibe. Boy, Hannigan's trying to get out any way he can. That ball bounced up and he was lunging towards the batter Posey and trying to cover the plate all at the same time. Come on out here. Let me get an out right quick. You like throwing to a guy like that. Get me an out any way you can and get me out of this rain.
One-two delivering, and it misses down and in. Posey is struck out and bounced to Kozar. Trying to put him away on that breaking ball, and he continues to make contact, soft albeit, but contact.
Well, these are hitters in the lineup. Posey, Sandoval, and Pence. They're going to get their money's worth regardless of the score. And especially this guy. Not going to give away any at bats. That's why you've got to continue to make pitches. If he's not going to give in, then you don't either.
88th pitch of the night for Arroyo. 2 down, nobody on. We're in the 6th inning, pitching with a 7-run lead. And he'll get him again on a roller to Cozart. He's had a busy night tonight. And the inning is over. Reds bat last of the 6th, leading the Giants by 7. Major League Baseball All-Star Game. The action comes your way Tuesday night, July the 16th, 7:30 Eastern Time, 4:30 Pacific on Fox. That'll be 2 weeks from tomorrow night. Coming up tonight and after every Reds game, Fox Sports Ohio will break it all down on Reds Live, brought to you by Kings Honda in the Kings Auto Mall. Visit KingsHondaUSA.com. New battery for the Giants. We'll tell you about the catcher. That's Hector Sanchez replacing Buster Posey. And what about on the mound?
Sanchez will be in that number 9 spot. It'll be a double switch. Posey is out of the game. And the pitcher, Jose Mijares, be in the number 3 spot. He's had a 2.12 ERA in 16 ball games on the road.
Rain continues to lightly fall. We played through it for 1 full inning so far.
It started to come down a little bit harder than what we are seeing now, and then it just kind of went back to this mist, hard mist, if you will.
Breaking ball near strike. 1-1 on Robinson. 1 of 3, and a big 2-out 2-run bouncer over the head of Sandoval. And went for a 2-run double in the 2nd inning. You know, we were laughing the other night about the Cleveland Browns beating the Chicago Bears 19-10 in game 1 of a doubleheader. Of course, that was the I'm saying that tongue in cheek. That was game 1 of a doubleheader the other night between the Indians over the White Sox. Well, how about this date in Reds history going back to 1956? Now, you want to talk about a real football score in game 1 of a doubleheader? As Derek Robinson lifts a fly ball on the left. Ted Kluszewski hit a 3-run home run A 10-inning win for the Reds in game 1 of a doubleheader against St. Louis. The Reds won 19-15 in game 1 of a doubleheader.
That's the kind of ball game if you have out of the bullpen, you'll never get your ERA back down. You could take a whole year and never fix it and pitch scoreless baseball.
We were in Chicago a couple of weeks ago when it was the anniversary of that 23-22 game. Well, there's some lightning, and it was close. That looked like it was barely on the other side of the Ohio.
I saw some earlier a couple of times, but it was well off in the distance. Now we're starting to hear the thunder to go along with the lightning. Tom, you were right earlier when you said that Bruce Bochy will try not to burn up any of his pitchers, just single innings and try to finish this ball game doing it that way. If you pitch 1 inning tonight, everybody's available tomorrow. If you have somebody that goes out and pitches 3 innings, well, they're probably done.
There's strike 3 called to Chu, and Mijares has retired the first 2 batters here in the inning. And while he would never admit it, no chance in a million years, at least to perhaps anyone outside of his closest friend or his wife. He probably wouldn't mind all that much if this game came to an end soon with the rain. And called it a night.
That way he doesn't have to burn up his bullpen.
I mean,
no manager wants to do that.
No, I mean, he might look at you and say, there's not a chance I'd ever go for that. We have a chance to come back and win this thing. Down by 7 going into the 7th. And he's right.
And he is at a certain extent. But you're also talking about reality. An 8-1 ball game. You don't want to burn up your bullpen. And you don't want to take a chance on one of your guys slipping and getting hurt. And I don't think either manager would go for that, especially the injuries that the Reds have had.
Well, it's starting to rain a lot harder now.
Yeah, that lightning quickened things up a little bit.
Votto gone swinging. That's all for the Reds in the 6th. 7th inning around the corner. All Reds so far here tonight. Well, we mentioned it was starting to rain harder just about a minute or 2 ago, and hard enough now where after a couple of bolts of lightning. The umpiring crew headed up by the chief Hatfield and Colbert deciding it's time to halt this thing for a little while. There's plenty of rain behind this. So you'd like to think that we won't be here all that long and could get back to wrapping this thing up. But we'll have to wait and see about that. What we do know is on the first game of this homestand after an ugly road trip, it has been a real good night for the home team.
Well, it's been a good night all the way around, not only on the mound but at the plate. The Reds jumped out early, and that's how you put a young starter to bed. You put the pressure on him.
Right now, time to get a great deal on your Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky Honda dealer and our Honda game summary of the game for the Reds. Todd Frazier knocking in a run with a base hit, first run of the night, plating Brandon Phillips. Phillips and Bruce started that inning with hits. A sac fly by Kozar, then a 2-run, 2-out bouncer that went for a 2-run double by Derek Robinson. Todd Frazier the following inning made it 7-0 with a 3-run home run. He has 4 knocked in tonight. Kozar has 2 knocked in tonight. This double in the 5th came with 2 outs against George Contos. Plating Brandon again. 8 runs, 11 hits for the Reds. 1 run, 2 hits for the Giants against Bronson Arroyo. And let's take a look at our Subway in-game box score. Nice to see a few of these twisted numbers a little bit.
Yeah, it really is. And this is what you want to have happen when you come back to your own home ballpark. You want to get back into the groove of the positive way of mind, not only on the mound but at the plate. And the only thing that you could spell out better than that is have a pitcher come in from the bullpen and slam the door. Then all 3 groups will be shining, because the defense, with all the ground balls by Arroyo today, has been shining big time, as well as that offense.
Well, you got to believe if we get back to playing baseball tonight, that the night certainly is over for Bronson Arroyo after he gave you 6 innings and 2-hit, 1-run baseball. You said the only guy in the lineup that was going to give him a problem tonight was Brandon Belt. And belted a home run. So you threw the whammy on him. Come on, well, Cowboy.
Brandon Belt is just one of those hitters that, you know, he's hitting in a spot in the order at number 6 where you don't have to press to get to him unless there's runners in scoring position. And just seemed like he got a pitch that he could handle, and he handled it well. He saw plenty of pitches his first time up when he walked, and then he hit that ball awfully well out of the ballpark.
Cowboy, you're one of the great karaoke guys of all time. And I got to tell you, there's a duo they've had up on the scoreboard this entire song. Take a look at these guys. Guns N' Roses song.
They are jamming.
Well, now they got off of them.
They are soaked, but they are jamming.
Boy, they're good. They're good. You're a great karaoke guy.
Yeah, not the Guns N' Roses.
What would be your karaoke song of choice if you had one?
All my rowdy friends are coming over tonight.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, we're going to take a timeout. We'll come back with more as they are applauding the duo on Karaoke Cam at the ballpark. It's like a concert here. That's good stuff. Good job out there, guys.